our ambitions here in this city support both provincial and national objectives, and we have signaled a willingness to partner to all orders of government. So there's still a lot more work to do, of course, Prime Minister, to ensure that cities across this country remain globally competitive and drive Canadian success. But we really do look forward to continuing this conversation about how we can work together directly to attack tough issues like climate change, housing affordability, to tackle poverty, to grow more jobs through innovation, and deliver better transit to keep everybody moving. The opportunities are plentiful. So thank you so much for being here today, and even more importantly, thank you for your government's continued acknowledgement and recognition of the value of direct partnership with mayors and local governments across the country. So now I'll invite MP Randy Boissonnault from Edmonton Centre, and again the Special Advisor to the Prime Minister on LGBTQ issues, to come up next.
Well, thanks very much, Mayor Iveson. Mio Tutakuin Tatawa, that is Cree. For guests, you are welcome. There is room here. We are honored to be here on Treaty 6 lands, the lands of First Nations and Métis people. Mayor Iveson, one of the great joys I have as serving as Member of Parliament for Edmonton Centre is the work that we are able to do with Minister Sohi to make this city and cities across the country not only more livable, but in this case to make people in Edmonton more prosperous. And the person that I'm going to bring up to the podium next to introduce the Prime Minister is no stranger to what it means to build cities. He was a successful multi-term city councillor, was this government's first Minister of Infrastructure, and he serves now as the Minister of Natural Resources. He is a fellow warrior and a champion for Albertans, for Edmontonians, and for all Canadians. Minister Sohi, Member of Parliament for Edmonton Millwoods, would you please come to the podium?
Well, thank you, Randy. I want to take a moment to welcome Minister Trudeau to Edmonton, as well as standing in the company of my good friend Mayor Don Iveson. As you all know, that both Don and I got elected to City Council at the same time in 2007, and I'm pretty sure some of you who follow City Hall, we were actually thinking, both of us were thinking for running for mayor in 2013, and he made the choice to run for mayor. I stepped back a bit. Then I had the chance to serve under the leadership of Prime Minister Trudeau when I got elected as a Member of Parliament in 2015. And since then, and starting from 2007, we have been working really hard to advocate on behalf of Edmontonians, whether it's building better public transportation system through LRT funding, and you can see the bridge coming up for the Valley Line, or investing in affordable housing, or ending poverty in our city and our province. And you all know the results came out few months ago that poverty in Alberta has been reduced by half because of the work that we have been able to do under the leadership of Prime Minister, but also partnership with the municipalities. And on the infrastructure, there are more than 150 infrastructure projects approved by our federal government since 2015, with the combined investment of municipal, provincial and federal of more than $9 billion, creating jobs in our communities, building a stronger middle class, as well as creating opportunities for those who work hard each and every day to be part of the middle class. So with that, it gives me great pleasure and honor to invite Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to talk about our ongoing partnership with municipalities and the funding announcement.
Thank you, Amberjeet. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's great to be back in Edmonton. But let me start off right off the bat by highlighting massive new numbers released by StatsCan just this morning. In April, Canadians created over 100,000 jobs, and 21,000 of those new jobs were created right here in Alberta. So here's the big picture. Since we formed government in November of 2015, Canadians created over 1 million new jobs, the vast majority of those being full-time. In the same amount of time, just over 600,000 jobs were created under the Harper government. That's a huge difference in outcome, but it's because we took a totally different approach. When we were elected, we made a promise to Canadians. We said that we were going to invest in them and in their communities. And that's exactly what we've done. We've supported families. We've invested in the places we call home. We've positioned Canada as a leader in the global marketplace, and we've taken concrete steps to ensure our kids and our grandkids have a brighter future. And the confidence that resulted from those investments led to more innovation, more people learning new skills, and more leaders growing their businesses. April was the largest month of job growth in this country in over 40 years. Think about that. These results wouldn't have been possible under austerity measures. Because we chose to invest in Canadians, we're seeing steady economic growth, record level job creation, and we've lifted 825,000 people and counting out of poverty. Those are results we can celebrate. This is incredible news for Canadian workers and their families, and we're going to keep building on this momentum over the coming months. And for proof of that, look no further than today's other great news and the reason that I'm back here in beautiful Edmonton. It's great to be back in this city, joined by strong local representatives like Randy Boissonneau and Amarjeet Sohi, our former Infrastructure and Communities Minister who's now stick-handling national resources. And as always, it was great to catch up with Mayor Iveson just now. Don and I had a chance to talk about the important things we've accomplished by working together. He's always our federal government. Since taking office, our government has invested more than $1.6 billion in 20 different Edmonton-based projects. That's 20 projects in 4 years being driven by the skills and hard work of the people in this community. Our government has invested significantly in big projects like the Valley Line LRT, as well as smaller but deeply meaningful projects like the 50th Street crossing. We're partnering with the province and the city for the Yellowhead Trail Freeway Conversion Project, and we're supporting the Riverine and Urban Buffer on flood mitigation. These are the kinds of projects that will have a positive impact on people's lives, getting them to work safely, protecting our environment, helping businesses get their products to markets on time, and putting appropriate safeguards in place to weather the next flood. Further to those investments, just a few months ago, our federal government announced even more support for projects that will make life better for Edmontonians. This year, with the Municipal Top-Up for Infrastructure announced in Budget 2019, we're doubling the amount of money that municipalities get directly through federal transfers. This will help us connect towns and cities across the country with the money they need to start moving on local projects, as Don just highlighted. Cet argent supplémentaire sera versé directement aux municipalités parce que, bien honnêtement, quelques gouvernements provinciaux et territoriaux se sont traînés les pieds en ce qui concerne la soumission de projets au nom de leur ville et de leur communauté. Avec cet argent supplémentaire, nous travaillons directement avec les municipalités qui souhaitent agir en partenariat avec nous et nous nous assurons que les citoyens n'aient pas à payer le prix lorsque quelques gouvernements provinciaux décident de faire de la petite politique. We have worked closely with Alberta over the past 3 years to get shovels in the ground across the province, and I look forward to working collaboratively with the new provincial government. I know Don has many great projects in mind to make life better for the families and workers who call Edmonton home, but I'd also like to thank him for his leadership and his ideas on the national scene as the chair of the Big City Mayors Caucus for FCM. He's a true champion for local issues, amplifying the voices of mayors across the country who represent our largest urban centers. By working together and with a strong vision for the future, the City of Edmonton and our federal government will continue to build on the great success we've already had, creating jobs, growing the economy, and building stronger communities. Once again, it's always a pleasure to be back in Alberta, always a pleasure to be back right here in Edmonton. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. I'm happy to take questions from media now.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Speaking of the provincial government, Premier Jason Kenney is going to eliminate Alberta's carbon tax in the next few weeks. How is elimination of the Alberta tax going to impact your decision and timing of the Trans Mountain Pipeline project and en français aussi?
Moves that a province may or may not make will have no bearing on the approval process for important projects like the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. We recognize, however, that lack of leadership on climate change, lack of partnership with Indigenous peoples is precisely what hurt the federal Conservative government in the past when it came to actually getting resource projects built. For a long time now, governments of multiple different stripes have recognized the imperative of getting our oil resources to new markets other than the United States. But for 10 years, the approach that the Conservative government under Stephen Harper took did not work to get pipelines built to new markets. We took a different approach. We promised Canadians we would take a different approach, which is to get these projects done right, which means partnership with Indigenous peoples, stronger environmental science, a better way of listening to communities, because the world is changing. These have to be done in meaningful partnerships. That's why we're going to continue to move forward in thoughtful ways to get big projects built in partnership with people who've been pushed to the sidelines by previous governments. In regards to the decision to put a price on pollution, I think Albertans, like all Canadians, know that we are facing a real and significant challenge with climate change. The floods, the wildfires, the consequences of extreme weather events are being borne not just by governments, but by all citizens. And we need to make sure we are fighting climate change. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to put a price on pollution and make sure that that price is affordable for Canadians. And that's exactly what we did. When we bring in the backstop in provinces that don't want to lead on climate change, provinces like Doug Ford's Ontario, we've made sure that the average family is actually better off with the climate action incentive we return to them at tax time than they would be paying as an extra price on pollution. That fighting climate change while making it affordable for Canadians is at the heart of how we're going to move forward, and I continue to hope that we're going to be able to work in partnership right across the country. Nous savons que la meilleure façon de lutter contre les changements climatiques, c'est de mettre un prix sur la pollution. Nous savons, tous les Canadiens savent qu'il faut lutter contre les changements climatiques, et c'est pour ça que le gouvernement fédéral va intervenir si nécessaire, s'il y a des provinces qui ne veulent pas mettre un prix sur la pollution, qui veulent continuer de laisser la pollution être gratuite. Alors, j'espère ne pas avoir besoin de le faire. J'espère pouvoir travailler avec le nouveau gouvernement ici en Alberta pour lutter contre les changements climatiques et investir dans l'avenir des Canadiens et du développement de nos ressources. Mais nous allons faire ce qui est nécessaire pour s'assurer que tous les Canadiens agissent pour contrer les changements climatiques tout en pouvant payer pour la différence, ce qu'on offre avec notre aide au temps des impôts. Par rapport à la décision sur Trans Mountain, nous allons continuer d'étudier le dossier. Nous allons prendre une décision responsable, nous allons prendre la bonne décision dans l'intérêt national. Nous reconnaissons que c'est important d'accéder à de nouveaux marchés que les États-Unis pour nos ressources, mais nous reconnaissons aussi que la seule façon d'aller de l'avant avec des projets comme ça, c'est de s'assurer que ça soit fait comme il faut, en partenariat avec les peuples autochtones et en respectant les préoccupations des gens par rapport à l'environnement.
And will the federal carbon tax kick in when the Alberta one is eliminated?
There are many discussions still to have on this. What we are going to ensure is that nowhere across the country will it be free to pollute. We'd much rather work with the provinces on that, but if some provinces don't want to act to fight climate change, the federal government will, because it's too important for Canadians.
Hi, Prime Minister, in English and en français, please, do you think your party can really take credit for these high jobs numbers?
In 2015, there were very different perspectives on offer to Canadians. We had two parties, the Conservatives and the NDP, proposing to balance the budget at all costs. We took a different approach in the Liberal Party. We said the way to create growth is not to do what the Conservatives have done and give advantages and benefits to the wealthiest in the hopes that it trickles down into creating jobs for others. It's actually to invest directly in the middle class and in their communities. So we put forward $180 billion worth of infrastructure projects, infrastructure investments that are going to make a huge difference, not just in jobs, while they're being designed and constructed, but in benefits to people who are in more livable cities, and people who can get their products to markets, people who will benefit from the economic growth that comes from smart infrastructure. We also recognize that the middle class is anxious all around the world because they see growth pass them by. So the first thing we did was lower taxes on the middle class and raise them on the wealthiest 1%. And we delivered a Canada Child benefit that puts more money in the pockets of 9 out of 10 Canadian families, hundreds of dollars a month, tax-free for average families, which has lifted over 300,000 kids out of poverty over these past 3 years. These are the things that have given Canadians confidence to invest in themselves, to invest in their communities, to invest in their future. Canadians created over 1 million new jobs over the past 3 years, as compared to almost barely over half that under Stephen Harper in an equivalent amount of time. And the reason they did that is because they know they have a government that stands up for workers, that invests in the middle class, and that has a plan to continue to grow our economy in responsible ways. Nous savons que c'est les Canadiens qui ont créé ces millions d'emplois au courant des dernières années. Mais ils l'ont fait parce qu'ils ont un gouvernement qui est là pour investir dans eux, dans leur communauté, pour leur donner la confiance d'avoir confiance dans l'avenir, de créer la croissance économique. Et cette approche qui est très différente de l'approche conservateur qui voulait toujours donner des avantages et des bénéfices aux plus riches dans l'espoir que ça allait arriver à aider tout le monde, ce qui ne fonctionnait pas, est en direct contraste avec notre approche. Nous allons continuer d'investir dans les Canadiens et dans leur communauté parce que ça fonctionne pour contrer les anxiétés et pour créer de la croissance à travers le pays, y compris ici en Alberta.
Thank you. And if I may ask a follow-up, you're here highlighting these jobs numbers. You guys bought the Trans Mountain Pipeline for billions of dollars. You seem to be an unpopular politician in Alberta. Why is your public relations message not sinking in here?
I think Albertans have faced really difficult years over the past little while. With the oil prices being where they are, with the uncertainty around getting big projects built, Albertans have been suffering. And as I've told Canadians from coast to coast to coast, Albertans have contributed massively to the well-being of Canadians right across the country, direct prosperity right across our country. And as they face difficult times, we've needed to be there for them as a country, and we certainly have as a government. But we recognize there is more to do. We need to get Alberta's natural resources to markets other than the United States because of the massive and deep discount Alberta gets for its oil because we are captive of a single market. That is why moving forward in a responsible way is a real priority. But we have to recognize that the approach the previous Conservative government took did not work. Because they marginalized Indigenous voices, because they didn't listen to community concerns about environmental impacts and tried to ram through projects, they got nothing built for all their efforts. We've taken a different approach of doing things responsibly, thoughtfully, in partnership. And we are confident that that is the only way to get big projects built. We will continue to look to build projects the right way, and that's why we're continuing to go through the processes on the Trans Mountain expansion. Nous savons que l'approche que le gouvernement conservateur a poussée antérieurement n'a pas fonctionné pour créer les projets nécessaires pour accéder à de nouveaux marchés. Donc nous allons faire différemment pour être partenaire au peuple autochtone, pour travailler pour rassurer les gens par rapport à l'environnement, parce que c'est la seule façon de bâtir des grands projets pour les années à venir.
Prime Minister, I'd like to ask you about the report that came out in BC about money laundering. It suggests it's a significant problem nationwide and that more needs to be done from a national perspective. I'd like to get your thoughts on that and what assurances that you might be doing something on that.
First of all, the report that came out of BC is extremely alarming, is absolutely unacceptable. The extent to which money laundering has not just taken money out of the Canadian economy, of BC's economy, but has actively hurt British Columbians with the disruptions to the housing market and others is something that absolutely needs to be countered. We have put forward significant measures in Budget 2019 to strengthen the audit program around real estate transaction actions to ensure that we are countering this. But more than that, our Minister Bill Blair is working very closely with the province of BC and indeed across the country to ensure that we are cracking down on money laundering and tax evasion. This is a real problem that we are taking very seriously.
To follow up on that, I mean, BC is a significant one, but surprisingly, I mean, for a lot of people even here in Alberta, Alberta is the #1 place where we're seeing the most money laundering. What other things can you do other than just dealing with the real estate issues to be able to handle this?
Well, strengthening of the audit process around real estate will be a significant measure that will counter that, but there's obviously lots more to do, and Minister Blair is working in partnership with BC and other provinces to make sure that we are moving forward in real tangible ways to counter money laundering and tax evasion. This is a real and pressing problem for Canadians, and it's a problem around the world that Canada is going to continue to lead in the fight against.
Hi, Prime Minister. As you know, we've just come through an election here in Alberta in which the Conservative Party won fairly overwhelmingly, in part by campaigning against you and your party. How confident are you that you can continue to win seats in Alberta, including the 2 MPs right beside you?
I think Canadians right across the country, whether they're in Alberta or elsewhere, want the same kinds of things. They want to know they have good jobs, that their kids are going to have good jobs into the future, that their communities are strong and resilient, that different orders of government are there to respond when disasters strike or challenges to the economy happen. And people are going to make decisions around what is going to serve them best and who has the best plan to build for the future. Right here in Alberta, I recognize that people have gone through very difficult years, and there is always a temptation for politicians at campaign time to exacerbate or stretch out or amplify fears, concerns, and anxieties. But my approach has always been to work with our partners at the municipal level, at the provincial level, to look for ways to serve citizens, to deliver the tangible benefits that citizens so deeply need. That is going to be our approach here in Alberta and right across the country, that we put forward a plan that is working for people in Alberta, for people right across Canada, and we're going to continue to work really hard every single day, not to amplify people's fears the way some politicians do, but to actually demonstrate how to allay those fears. Je reconnais que les Albertains ont vécu des années très difficiles au niveau de l'économie, avec des pertes d'emplois, avec de l'incertitude par rapport à leur avenir, et malheureusement, certains politiciens ont choisi d'amplifier et d'exagérer et de créer plus de peur, d'insécurité et même de furie par rapport à cette réalité. Mon approche, l'approche de notre gouvernement a toujours été de travailler avec les gouvernements pour rassurer les Canadiens, pour investir dans leur communauté, pour démontrer qu'on est là pour être partenaire, pour bâtir un avenir meilleur. Et quand les Albertains, comme tous les Canadiens, auront la chance de faire un choix cet automne sur qui a le meilleur plan pour répondre à leurs anxiétés et bâtir un avenir meilleur, je sais qu'ils vont regarder les résultats livrés par l'approche de ce gouvernement d'un œil très positif, même et surtout ici en Alberta.
One of the issues that came up a lot on the campaign trail was Bill C-69. My understanding is the independent group of senators has introduced some substantial amendments to that bill. Have you been briefed on those amendments yet, and how acceptable might they be to your government?
We have said from the very beginning that we are very much looking forward to working with a broad range of voices, from business to Indigenous peoples to community groups, to make improvements to Bill C-69. Bill C-69 came forward in response to a fundamental failure by successive Canadian governments to get a system in place that could get projects approved and keep them out of court for the following years. What we have right now is a system in place put in by the Harper government that has resulted in tremendous conflict and tremendous amounts of court cases as people don't trust government to get things right. The reality is, we know that we have to do a better job of responding to investors' concerns about the clarity and the timelines they need to be able to get big projects built in this country. At the same time, we need to do a better job of responding to Indigenous desires for partnership, for participation in projects, and concerns that individuals and communities might have about long-term impacts to the environment. What Bill C-69 does is respond to the fact that we haven't been very good as a country over the past decade in getting big projects approved and built, and moves forward with a mechanism that includes the concerns of a broad range of stakeholders so that we can get back to investing in Canadians, investing in our natural resources, and getting our products to markets all around the world.
Bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau. Sur l'affaire Norman, allez-vous demander une enquête indépendante comme le demande l'opposition, et pourquoi votre gouvernement s'est-il battu pour ne pas divulguer les documents que la défense demandait?
Je pense que les gens comprennent que notre système de justice et les processus légaux qui ont entouré ce cas et tous les cas sont indépendants du gouvernement, sont indépendants de mon bureau. Nous avons toujours respecté, nous allons toujours respecter l'indépendance judiciaire, et par rapport à ça, c'est l'approche que nous allons toujours prendre.
In English, please.
Okay. I think Canadians understand that judicial processes, police investigations, and court proceedings are all entirely independent of the government of the day and of certainly of the Prime Minister's office. That is the way it should be. The processes in this case have unfolded in a proper manner, completely independent of government, as they should have.
Puis une deuxième question sur la Banque mondiale qui revient avec des allégations de corruption contre Bombardier dans l'obtention d'un contrat de 339 millions de dollars en Azerbaïdjan en 2013. Est-ce que vous êtes préoccupé des effets de ce genre d'allégations contre des géants de l'économie canadienne, Bombardier, SNC-Lavalin?
C'est certainement préoccupant quand on pense aux emplois, mais j'ai confiance et dans la Banque mondiale et dans les processus qui vont se dérouler de façon indépendante et responsable. Obviously, anytime allegations like this are made, there is cause for concern, particularly around potential job impacts. But once again, I have faith in independent processes and indeed in the World Bank to do its job responsibly.
Yes, Mr. Prime Minister, I want to ask about China's ongoing canola ban. You've already expanded a loan program for farmers, but farmers that we hear from say, borrowing more money is not enough for them. What more can you do, and when does it come time to actually make a formal complaint to the World Trade Organization?
I think, first of all, we recognize the terrible impact that this canola ban from China is having on farmers across the country. We know that Canadian canola is the best in the world, is unimpeachable in terms of its quality, and China is simply using phytosanitary concerns as an excuse to prolong what is fundamentally a conflict not even with Canada, but between the two largest economies in the world. So yes, we are very much going to continue to support our farmers in every way we can, both with direct supports as we've announced, and with trade missions that are looking at diversifying our markets and finding better and more reliable markets for canola. But at the same time, we need to continue to work to end this dispute with China, this conflict with China. We're going to continue to work directly with China and engage in as many different ways as we possibly can to lower the temperature on this, to get the Canadians who've been arbitrarily detained back to safety, but also continue to develop our trading relationships, as we know so many Canadians and Chinese depend on. But at the same time, we've involved a broad range of partners around the world. I just had a conversation with President Donald Trump yesterday where we highlighted the challenges against Canada because of this conflict with China, and we have gotten strong assurances from people around the world that they stand firmly with Canada and indeed are concerned about the way that China is engaging in the world. So we're going to continue to work hard to stand up for our farmers, to stand up for Canadian producers, and to resolve this situation. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you all very much.